That's right, here we go again. Let's do this. Time to pick up where we left off at Act 3. The secret turnabout is finally here. Let's finish the story. It's finally time to connect the dots between our past case. Our first case involving Aiden Gambit and his boss. And our second case involving Apollo and our defendant, Judge Erie, and the attorney, the corrupt defense attorney from the past case, which Aiden Gambit might be involved with. And it's time to figure out why the jury system exploded at the end of this trial. That was too close. I think my heart is still racing from all that's happened. I had moments of pulling victory back from the jaws of defeat, but nothing like that. Mr. Justice, that was incredible. When the guilty verdict came in, I thought for sure I was a goner. But then you somehow managed to turn it all around. Well, it's still not over yet, Judge Erie. You opened up a new possibility for the murder method, that much is true. However, we still need proof that it played out like that in my theory. Right. We still need more info on this pulley. Do you really think that girl the prosecution called in is going to be of any help? Oh, that's right, we're bringing in Vera. You mean Vera? I don't know what her testimony will bring. However, I did have a case involving her in the past, and I can tell you right now, she's a good person at heart. Judge Erie, I don't think she has malicious intentions. I see. That's how you feel, Mr. Justice, then I shall put my trust into her too. With her help, I will surely get to the bottom of this case. And then, we will finally be able to prove who really set up the pulley in the vents. No, don't tell me. Let me guess. It was the ghost. I tell you, they set up the pulley to frame me. Oh, brother. Why don't they just let this go? If there wasn't a ghost here already, there might be one now. Hey! Oh, please don't say that, Mr. Wright. Indeed, the only ghost I see here is the notion that the case would be simple. Mr. Wright? Mr. Edgeworth? What are you two doing here? Great work in there so far, Apollo. I knew you wouldn't let me down on this, and I was right. Let you down on what? On your summation examination, of course. Oh yeah. I knew this case was in Edgeworth's favor since the beginning. No matter what, there just simply wasn't enough proof to counteract his arguments. Even so, I couldn't help the feeling that something was off about this case. I knew that if there was any way to prove what it was, it would be in the summation examination. I've seen many turnabouts in my lifetime, but what you managed was something else. Indeed, that was one of the most impressive feats I've seen in a courtroom. I dare say, Knight, that your protege may be on track to surpassing even you. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. You two are going to make me blush. Now then, we must return to business. After all, I didn't come here just to spend my time needlessly praising you. Huh? Then what did you come here for? Do you remember what happened when Emma presented that pulley to the court? How I reacted, what I said. How could I not? It's still fresh in my mind. Feast your eyes on this. What is that? Some kind of pulley? No. Yeah. Mr. Edgeworth, are you okay? Detective Sky, are you sure you found this pulley in the vents? Mr. Edgeworth, what's wrong? Why do you have that look? Just answer the question, Detective. It's just because Mr. Edgeworth's sprite look a much higher quality than it did when I first played this. Maybe I'm just seeing much higher quality, much different quality in the flashback form. Yeah. I'm sure that's where I found it. Mr. Sky, Mr. Justice, you don't realize. Maybe this is just a custom expression. I've seen an identical pulley to this one recently, used as evidence in the larceny trial against Manny Steele. What? What? You realize what this means, of course, Mr. Justice. The larceny at the prosecutor's office and the murder of Corey Repture are connected. That would seem to be what the evidence is telling us, yes. However, there's a problem we run into now. Huh? A problem? As it stands, Matty Steele is undoubtedly the culprit who stole the files from my office. Unfortunately, there is no possibility he is the one who set up your death trap theory. After all, he was in police custody the entire time. But there has to be a connection here. Two identical pulleys in both trials, and the murder took place during the larceny trial. There can't just be coincidences. Perhaps there may be a dark truth underlying this case. It almost sounds like you have an idea of what that dark truth is. The look on your face tells me everything, Mr. Edgeworth. You're starting to get an idea of who the true culprit is, aren't you? It seems like Wright was correct. Those skills of perception are beyond compare. Even so, your client's innocence is still not a guarantee at this point. So I will continue my fight against you and your theory. Even at the cost of the truth? Misunderstand me, Mr. Justice. It is not my intention to fight against the truth at all. Indeed, Mr. Edgeworth. Mr. Edgeworth is just doing his job. And Judge Erie? Listen here, Mr. Justice, and listen well. We don't pit attorneys against each other for fun. The goal of our courts is not, and should not be, to pick a winner. Mr. Edgeworth is going to test you. It's not going to be easy, but it's a necessity for him to question your theory. You need him to challenge you. He will help you to see the holes in your thought process, and he will make you fill in the gaps. When no questions remain, only then will you be able to find the truth. That was surprisingly well said. Judge Erie certainly has his eccentricities. However, he is a man who cares deeply about finding the truth. He is an honorable man, even if the conclusion he comes to is supernatural. Mr. Justice, I'm well aware that my beliefs aren't quite usual. However, if the evidence of this case proves or disproves the supernatural, then wouldn't you say we've got one step closer to the truth? Well, I suppose he's not wrong. There's one thing I've learned from my years of practicing. It's that sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. However, as long as we follow where the evidence takes us, then we can rest easy knowing that it is indeed the truth. I guess there's still so much I don't understand. I was chosen to be the one to help our courts grow, yet I also have growing to do. But one day, I will learn what it truly means to be a lawyer. Maybe then I can finally make a difference. Now then, I don't have much time to spare. I'm to get Vera Misham ready for the stand. I must be on my way soon. However, before I leave, there is one last thing I must do. What's that, Mr. Edgeworth? If you intend to prove a connection between this case and the larceny case, then you cannot do it with the evidence you currently have. And so, Mr. Wright requested I bring you two pieces of evidence from the larceny trial. The first is this, the remote that Aiden Gambit presented during the trial. Presented by Gambit? This can't possibly be. Just when things started to seem like they were going his way, he decided to bet his entire case on one single piece of evidence. So I take it that decision didn't go so well. He crashed and burned right at the last minute. He wasn't so adamant about the fact that he needed only one piece of evidence. The kid might have stood a chance. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, it's the moment of truth. It's time to prove what really happened on that day. Beep. Nothing happened. What? Seems at long last we have reached a conclusion. Bence's theory was incorrect. I gotta say, I briefed myself a little bit on what has gone on, but I thank you so very much for giving us a very, very good recap on the previous chapters. Going into this final trial. So that's how it happened, huh? Indeed. I was there to witness the entire ordeal. Gambit made a claim that this pulley was used to climb down from the roof. Enter my office on the night of the theft. But the remote didn't work. Indeed. Pate even countered that this couldn't be the remote used for that pulley. After all, the thief would need the remote to flee the scene. It was found in my office. I see. Still, I can't help the feeling that there's more to this. If the remote isn't connected to the pulley from the larceny trial... Wonder, could it possibly be connected to our pulley? The second piece of evidence we have is this. What is that? A letter? Oh, the blackmail letter. Supposedly sent to Manny Steele. Is what the defense claimed true? Are you being blackmailed? Poor Manny. It's true, Your Honor. A few days ago, I received a typed letter in the mail. There were very clear and specific instructions for me to follow. But I refused. Refused? Even though he was being blackmailed. Indeed. He claimed it was because there was nothing the blackmailer could hold over him. But I think there's more to the story. Manny Steele is not nearly that brave. So following the instructions would actually be worse for him than disobeying them? Sadly, as this letter is typed and not handwritten, there's no way to test its authenticity. However, we still have yet to figure out what this spirit of seething wants. Whether they are, in fact, Jonathan Seething, like Gambit theorized. Ah, spirit? As in ghosts? So the ghost of a dead kid really has come to haunt this courthouse? Oh, for crying out loud! Jonathan Seething was the kid in the original incident. Who, in any event, if the larceny and Corey Rupture's murder really are connected. So, Manny Steele was the prosecutor, working the case. Corey Rupture was the defense attorney. Jonathan Seething was the kid of the couple killed, and was supposedly assassinated, but may or may not actually be Aiden Gambit. That was my running theory near the end of the part 2, I believe. And eventually, larceny and Corey Rupture's murder really are connected. And perhaps the true nature of this spirit of seething will finally come to light. Alright, well that's settled. Is that it? Not quite yet, Apollo. There's one last thing I requested. One last thing? I do hope you appreciate the lengths I go to for you, right? It was not easy getting authorization to bring this to you. It was only with the new connection between these cases that I was given allowance. Don't think that goes above even the chief prosecutor? In any case, here are the files that you requested. Files? What are these for? These were the files stolen from my office on the night of the larceny. You mean what Manny Steele was after? Indeed. These are the files for the AS-10 incident. Ah, yeah. A case for which Corey Rupture was most famous. Corey Rupture? The victim was involved in this case. And Manny Steele was the prosecution. Small world, isn't it? Corey Rupture's most famous case. Against Manny Steele, no less. Let me put it this way. The guy's most famous case was about an assassination. A kid's parents were killed right in front of him, and the kid was almost killed himself. The guy that gall to say that the kid was faking his injuries and had his entire testimony revoked. This has to be it, what Emma was talking about earlier. The AS-10 incident has to be what ties everything together. Now then, that really is all the time I can afford. Don't expect me to pull any punches in there, Mr. Justice. Don't worry, I'm not gonna hold back either. Quite the lively protege you have, right? Lively is definitely one way of putting it. Very well, Mr. Justice. I'll see you in the courtroom. You know, I have to say, in court he seems so intimidating. And yet, out of court, he's not nearly so ferocious. Miles Edgeworth may carry a cold demeanor, but he's a caring man. There are many in these courts who don't take me seriously due to my beliefs. And Mr. Edgeworth has always treated me with respect when I'm at the bench. Yeah, he can be a big softy when you get to know him. Despite that, he'll stick with his convictions until the very end. And I'll make sure not to let him down. I'll get to the bottom of this case and find the truth. Do you think the evidence I've requested will help with that? I think so. There's still one thing that bugs me. And what would that be? It was something Emma said when I was investigating the crime scene. It's actually a bit strange. What was? Based on the blood spatter, he should have been right on top of the fireplace. However, he was instead found right next to it. Even with the evidence I have, I can't wrap my head around it. This could have been explained in Edgeworth's theory, but not mine. That is pretty weird. Well, I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out, won't you? Yeah, I hope so. Judge Erie, are you okay? Huh? Oh, yes, I'm her quality, Erie, and I'm fine. Did you really have to teach him your chords of steel, Apollo? Huh? I wonder what got into Judge Erie all of a sudden. Did you move the body? I think I'm finally starting to see how things connect. Corey Rupture, Manny Steele, Jonathan Seething. These files will be the key to unlocking the full truth. No matter what, I have to keep strong until that truth is revealed. A dragon never yields, and I won't. It's justice. Alright, let's take a moment to read our stuff here that we picked up. Thank you again so very much for the awesome recap. So, to the one who saved my life, your noble action is marred by a shameful career. While you may have kept my body safe, your actions have forever tainted my soul. Prepare to reveal the entire truth from that case 13 years ago. Unless you want your involvement known, you will do as I say. Keep this letter with you, but don't tell a soul. Further instructions will be sent bearing the same signature. Signed, the Spirit of Seething. 13 years ago. Alright, let's read AS10. Alright. 2014. Double murder. So. It's highly possible. I just read the suspect data and I'm so mad. I just read the suspect data. I'm so mad. Do you see it? Do you see it? I'm so mad. I'm so mad. I'm going to seethe. I'm going to seethe. Why this? Let's focus here. Okay. So we're almost, assuming this takes place in 2026? 2026, 27? That puts you in, I will trust that that 2027 puts this in the proper place canonically. For being 13 years later. So date of crime, January 16th, 2014. We are just over 13 years later. Charged double murder, verdict not guilty, defense Corey Rupture, prosecution Manny Steele, witness Jonathan Seething. Key witness Jonathan Seething claims he was attacked a few days after the murder, saying that the prosecution Manny Steele saved his life. They're both wounded in the process. Defense refuted this claim, proving that no such wound existed on Seale's person. Weird. Melissa and Jonas Seething. Hung to death in their own home, right in their bed. That's very telling. That's very telling that this was the method of the trap that Apollo was proposing. Automated trap that Apollo was proposing seems to be leading us to the revenge conclusion. Hung to death. Hung to death. To make up for the way that Seething's parents died. Evidence suggests the murderer entered into their home when they were sleeping. The lock of the front door was intact, suggesting the perpetrator had a key. There. Murder. Deere was thought to be an assassin for hire, but this was never proven. He was known to have links to a famous politician. Deere and his daughter, Sia Deere, died in a fatal car accident 2 months after the trial. Foul play was suspected in the accident, but no evidence of this was found of this. Politically motivated. They cover their tracks. Curious. Alright, down to business. Bang. Court is now reconvened for this trial of her quality. Prosecutor is ready, Your Honor. Still reading. I am Mr. Justice. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Just giving the AS-10 files a look through. This was my last chance before the trial started. Very well, then let's proceed immediately. Mr. Edgeworth, have you managed to subpoena Vera Misham? Indeed I have, Your Honor. She is currently waiting in the lobby, even as we speak. Very well, you may call her as a witness to the stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Vera Misham, ex-forger. I certainly wasn't expecting to see Vera in court ever again. By the looks of it, everything that's happened has taken a toll on her. 2 days ago, you testified at this very courthouse, correct? Yes, that's correct. I testified about a commission I had done recently. And that commission was the creation of this pulley, correct? Yes, I'd recognize one of my creations anywhere. Oh. Is that so, Miss Misham? Would you happen to recognize this pulley as well? Oh, yes, that's one of mine. Order! Order! I see. This confirms that there were 2 pulleys inside the courthouse that day. Is there any reason you neglected to tell us that you had made multiple pulleys? Yes, it all has to do with evidence law. Evidence law? Oh, I think I understand. At the time of the larceny trial, this pulley had not yet been pre-approved of by the police, meaning that you could not talk about it unless it became relevant to the case. That's correct. If the second pulley never became relevant to the case, I wasn't allowed to talk about it. It told me I'd get in trouble if I did. He? Who is this he, Vera? The lawyer who came to my house asking about the pulley. He asked me to testify in court and told me about evidence law then. Gambit? That's Gambit. That's totally Gambit. Wait a minute, is she talking about Aiden Gambit? Did he know about the second pulley all along? I'm not entirely sure that she would have gotten in trouble for it, Miss Misham. Information he may have given you may have been inaccurate. I see. May I ask a question, Mr. Edgeworth? What is it you wish to know? That second pulley I created, where did you find it? As it just so happened, this pulley was found in the unused ventilation shafts, located above the scene of Corey Rupture's murder. What? A murder? Is everything I make doomed to be used in some plot? Poor Vera. It can't be easy to learn she's been tricked again. I think it's clear we need to hear more about these pulleys in question, and how the commission for these pulleys came in. And this time I would prefer you not to leave out any details. All right. All right. There are talents I still have from my days as a forger, but I try to stay within the law now. While I do most of my commissions face-to-face, there are some I accept through mail. When I received a letter with no signature on it, I really thought nothing of it. The letter asked for 2 pulleys that would work at the press of a button. Once I was finished making them, I brought them to the designated drop-off point. Press of a button. I see. So you never met the commissioner in person? Sadly not. Maybe I need to stop accepting requests by mail. That just sounds like it would be rather inconvenient to me. Though perhaps you should require all commissions by mail to provide a name of some sort. I understand, Your Honor. And Apollo, I'm sorry. It just seems like my work keeps putting you and Mr. Wright in trouble every time. Even when I try to turn things around, my past keeps haunting me.
Objection!
can't think like that. You can't keep blaming yourself every time someone uses you. You haven't gotten used to the larger world yet. You still have much to learn. But you will. I know you will. You made a promise, after all. Thank you, Apollo. You're right. Oh, your words. They mean a lot to me. I would prefer that the defense and the witness not make googly eyes at each other in court. Edgeworth, please. Not while there's still a cross-examination to do. Yeah, I wasn't... Mr. Justice, I had no idea you were so popular with the ladies. But I must agree with Mr. Edgeworth. I prefer that you don't flirt in this courtroom. And with one flourish, a new ship was born. Thank God Trucy's in here to see this. He'd be teasing me so much right now. Believe me, if only this case wasn't doomed, it's, Phoenix Wright would, be telling Trucy all of this, and she would be teasing him after the fact. Well, oh, that's right, I forgot we could poll the jury. I still find it odd that you were never officially charged with those forgeries. Mr. Gavin was very understanding of my situation. He knew that my talents had been exploited ever since I was very young. It's been a bit difficult for me to come to terms with it as well. But even after everything he put me through, I still love my father. His death is one I don't think I've completely gotten over. I certainly know the feeling of still looking back fondly at memories with a father figure, even when they were using you for their own agendas. I don't think many would say that Vera Misham was a good father to you, but I cannot blame you for mourning your loss. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. Actually, it was the fact that I had been used my entire life that was the main point of contention. Mr. Gavin used that to plead with the prosecutor's office to lessen or drop the charges. He agreed, on one condition. Oh, that you worked with the police to help catch your former clients. Naturally, I didn't really have any choice but to agree. But I'd like to think I would have helped them regardless. And why is that? There's so much talk these days about how nobody trusts the courts anymore. The dark age of the law is incoming! Some people have taken to calling it the dark age of the law. Okay, just straight up say it. I can't help but think I had a part to play in all this. Vera. It's hard to say whether you are part of the cause for the dark age of the law. However, that you are willing to own up to your mistakes is rather admirable. No matter what our part in this is, we all must take responsibility to stop it, if things are to improve. Well said, Mr. Edgeworth. For now, let us return to the cross-examination. Miss Misham, how do you tend to receive your requests? You do most commissions face-to-face. Doesn't this seem a bit, I don't know, dangerous? What exactly do you mean? Well, I mean, after what you went through the last time, don't you think a bit more caution is needed when picking who to meet in person? Objection! Mr. Justice, I think Miss Misham is more than capable of making decisions for herself. I don't think she needs you to cuddle her every step of the way, now does she? Well, I wasn't trying to... Mr. Edgeworth is right, Apollo. Yeah, pouting face emoji. I made a promise that I would try to become a more productive member of the outside world. Please stop getting worried every time I do something in favor of that promise. Why am I suddenly the bad guy here? I'm trying to get back on topic for a moment. Last time I called from State Mrs. Misham, you only used to accept requests through mail. When did you start allowing face-to-face requests? Incidentally, it was after my trial that I started more face-to-face requests. I don't know if the atrocanine poisoning was my wake-up call, or the trial itself was. But I realized that I had spent far too much of my life hiding from the outside world. Life's not worth living if you're not sharing it with others. Oh, Vera. That case really did a number on you, huh? Wish I could say sorry enough for putting that poison in your mouth. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get so depressing. But it sounds like she's trying to make a positive change for it. Be fine. Don't worry about me. While the events of that case were shocking, I'm glad your life was changed for the better. In any case, let us return to the cross-examination. Like I said, yeah, it certainly did do a number on her, but it seems like in this case she's genuinely doing better now, despite all of it. What went on through your mind when you first received the request for the pulleys? You're sure you had no suspicions at all? An unmarked letter in the mail would definitely set off a few red flags for me. As you said before, Apollo, I'm still learning about the wider world. Besides, I'm used to my clients valuing their anonymity. It'd be difficult adapting to a new line of work, I'm afraid. Old habits can take over if you're not careful. In my case, old habits means not asking questions. And yet, I can't help but wonder something about your explanation. Here you had a person you had no way of contacting at all, choosing to remain hidden. How were you expecting to receive payment for your work? The thought hadn't really occurred to me, admittedly. I just assumed they'd leave the payment in my mailbox like the first time. The first time? Yes. Received part of my payment in advance. That certainly motivates you to take on a strange request. $2,000, with a promised $3,000 more for finishing the job. $5,000 total? That's quite a lot of money. Indeed, but the price is about right. This kind of machinery, especially special order, can prove very expensive. The question is, have you received your second payment? Not as of yet, no. I didn't expect the payment to come immediately, of course. I can only hope my client keeps their word. Same here. I wouldn't want Vera to get scammed. Pay your artists. Pay your artists promptly and fairly. For now, let's turn our attention back to the cross-examination. What exactly did the letter request from you, Miss Misham? Can you tell us a bit more about the pulleys in question? How do they work exactly? Alright, I'll try my best. Oh, wow. That's impressive. There are 2 pulleys in total. Each one is set up to work remotely. Use a wireless signal to connect to a designated remote that controls them. What is this remote? How does it work? The remote has 2 buttons. Both rotate the mechanism inside the pulley itself. Once the rope has been loaded into the pulley, it's as simple as pushing up or down. Additionally, there is a knob on the back of the remote to control the speed of rotation. It's so simple that even a child could use it. Or even, perhaps, a simple-minded defense attorney. What? Whoa, hey, low blow, buddy! It should be noted, however, that there is no crank to use with the pulley, meaning there's no way to use it manually. So everything has to be done by remote control. That's right. It doesn't matter how much you try to force it to work. If you don't have the right remote for the other pulley, they won't work at all. I see. Wait a minute. Is there something odd about the way Vera worded that? The right remote for the right pulley. I wonder. Is this worth pursuing? Yeah, sure. Vera, wait just a moment. No, Apollo. Sorry, Toad. You just said that to use the pulleys, you need the right remote for either one. Either one? Mr. Justice, are you suggesting a lot of stink has been made about there being 2 pulleys? But what about the number of remotes? Vera, answer me honestly. Did you make more than 1 remote for the pulleys? No, did I not mention that? Uh-oh. Order in the court. I'm sorry, Apollo. I didn't mean to leave that out. The thing is, it could legitimately pass for, like, implied information here. Don't worry about it. As long as we know the truth in the end. Just tell us how many remotes there are. There were 2 remotes in total. Like, if each pulley is identical and each pulley is controlled by remote control, it would make sense that there would be 2 remotes. The same as the number of pulleys. Right. That was another part of the request. Each pulley is connected to its own separate remote. So the remote assigned to one pulley will not work on the other. Well, that sounds easy. I can quickly see it becoming cumbersome. Imagine, if you will, that these pulleys were mass-produced. Buying them in bulk would mean having to sort through dozens of different remotes. Even here, with just 2 pulleys, would make far more sense to have them be connected to a singular master remote. It is quite odd now that you mention it. However, that's simply just what the client asked for. That the commissioner asked for each pulley to have its own remote. And yeah, if you were in a setting where you would mass produce something like this, where you'd have like multiple of these you'd want to control, you would have these individual controls either mapped to a master control or some kind of control board. Like a backstage control to control lights, curtains, and pulleys, whatnot. That bunch of snaz, but if it's for individual use, sure. Is it possible there's some sort of reason for this? In any case, you should probably take note of this for later. Right, remote update. Where is this drop-off point exactly? It's a small rundown playground with which nobody visits anymore. I don't remember the name, only that I dropped off the pulleys there. Even when the drop-off point was such a rundown, desolated area, you still didn't suspect anything was wrong. Actually, it was at this point that I started to think something was up. I was worried that maybe this was a setup to get me alone and vulnerable, that I might end up being kidnapped or killed. Thank God that didn't happen. However, of course, you're standing here before us now. Yes. So I was obviously fine. When nothing happened to me, I decided to put my fears at ease. I waited the rest of my payment as I tried to push the entire incident out of my mind. That is, until Mr. Gambit came asking about the pulleys. And then everything came crashing down. I wish I could turn back time and keep myself from ever making those pulleys, knowing that they were used for not just a larceny, but a murder as well. Yeah, I don't think about that now. Just think happy thoughts, okay? Yeah, okay, Apollo, now you're getting patronizing. Mr. Justice, yelling at her isn't going to solve the problem. Sorry. Give her a moment to clear her thoughts. Yelling is just going to stress her out even more. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. I think I'll be fine. Just focus on the issues at hand. 2 pulleys found after 2 different crimes. Pulley found at the prosecutor's office during the larceny case, and the pulley found in the vents during this very trial. Both of them are made by Vera for the same commission. At this point, it's not a question that these 2 crimes are related. The main sticking point here is keeping us from going forward is the events of the larceny trial. Aiden Gambit disproved the pulley's connection to the larceny case. When the remote didn't work when he used it, in order to get back on track, I need to pick up right where he left off. Must be some way to reconnect the pulley back to the larceny case. In order to find the evidence I need, I should seek multiple perspectives on this issue. Perhaps certain statements have different angles I can get information from. Okay, so you do have to pull the jury here. Your Honor, I'd like to hear what the jury thinks about this statement. Very well, Mr. Wright, if you would please. Sure thing, Your Honor. What do you guys think? Okay, this is our mystery buff. When you made the pulleys, did you have any idea what they were going to be used for? No. The letter didn't say what they were actually for. Juror 3 is the actor who is probably Will Powers. But surely you must have had some kind of theory, right? Even if you didn't know for sure. You must have at least been curious or something. I would have wondered what was going on if I was in your situation. I definitely see your point. At The best theory I had at the time was that they wanted the pulleys for some kind of show. A show, you say? Yes, like the one the Gramier trope used to put on all the time. Now, that's a name I've not heard of in a long while. I was honestly half convinced that Trucy had ordered the pulleys for me as a surprise. That is until one of them ended up in the trial. I mean, the larceny trace, where Manny Steele was the defendant. And that lawyer, Mr. Gambit, said that my pulley had been used in the crime. You can feel my heart sink. Jeez, someone give this girl a hug. This is the angry asshole journalist. Ah, get over it. It's not a big deal. Third as ever I see, Juror 2. I mean, think about it. Gambit's theory was proven false, right? I mean, after all, he used the remote and nothing happened. That's right. I keep forgetting that the entire jury saw her in the larceny trial. Meaning they saw the pulley Gambit presented with their own eyes. No better than anyone how it connects to that case. Remember the jury, you were there when the pulley was presented in Manny Steele's trial. Now another one has appeared that could be connected to this case. Which could potentially link these two cases together. Alright, this is going places. Order, order. At this point, a link between these two cases seems rather likely. A good try, Mr. Justice, but I'm afraid that won't work. What do you mean? You remember what Juror 2 just said a few moments ago? Aiden Gambit's theory was proven false at the end of the trial. But... Yeah, exactly. That idiotic theory was shot right in the foot by Gambit himself. No proof at all that the pulley was used in the larceny. Hey! Aiden's theory wasn't idiotic. This is the courthouse clerk and the Aiden Gambit fanboy. Fango. The remote for the pulley was found at the scene and it was made by that girl. How do you explain that, huh? I wish I knew what to say. But unfortunately, I just don't have the answer to that question. By all accounts, that should be the remote that works for the pulley Mr. Gambit found. And against all odds, it just isn't at all. This is one puzzle that just seems impossible to solve. I wonder, do I have the means to solve it? You look deep in thought, Mr. Justice. Wonder, do you think that statement's important enough to be added to the testimony? Yeah, sure. Their statement is incredibly important, Your Honor. It should be added to the testimony immediately. At once! Very well, Miss Misham, if you would, add this to your testimony. Only way forward is to solve this problem once and for all. And to prove what really happened in the larceny trial. You have an idea why it didn't work? Honestly, I don't have a single idea. I can confirm that the pulley is my design, and as is the remote it came with. My best guess is that it simply doesn't work. Doesn't work? Yes. My forger days have given me some experience as a tinkerer. But art is far more of my calling than engineering. Drawing, sketching, painting, it's what I love most. It's my passion above all else. So I'm always happy to get another commission for it. In comparison, the pulley was simply another job to do. But even if that's the case, it doesn't make much sense if the pulley didn't work. What do you mean? Think about it. Someone paid money for you to make this pulley. Went through the effort of trying to remain anonymous the entire time. Only for it to turn out to not have even worked in the first place. Yet at no point where you demanded a refund. Oh, you're right.
Objection!
That may be a bit of a moot point, Mr. Justice. Huh? What do you mean? Imagine for a second that it was revealed that those pulleys were going to be used to commit some sort of crime. Would you want to risk asking for a refund after that? Good point. Still, I'm not entirely convinced. Is it really not possible that the remote actually was working when the Gambit used it? Two pulleys found after two different crimes. The pulley found at the prosecutor's office during the larceny case. And the pulley found in the vents during this very trial. both of them made by Vera for the same commission. At this point, it's not a question that these two crimes are related. The main sticking point here is keeping us from going... oh yeah. Looping time. This is a new statement at the end of the testimony. I could present the remote here. I'm gonna pull the jury just because we want to, just to get more of the jury. Your Honor, I'd like to hear what the jury thinks about this statement. Very well, Mr. Wright, if you would, please. What do you guys think? I mean, what else needs to be said, right? We all saw it with our own eyes. The remote didn't do anything. Well, yes, it's true that the pulley didn't react to the remote. Does that necessarily rule it out as being related to the case? I'm afraid I don't follow your logic, Mr. Justice. This is the orphanage worker. Yeah, I mean, that pulley really was the only thing tying it to the crime. But it was still left at the crime scene after the larceny took place. There has to be a reason for that.
Objection!
Does there really have to be some grand reason, Mr. Justice? What do you mean? Think about it from this perspective, Mr. Justice. I keep plenty of case files inside my office, as is typical for all prosecutors. However, not all of the case files are the standard run-of-the-mill ones you'll find at the precinct. Some of these special case files contain certain pieces of evidence. It's possible the remote came from one of these files.
Objection!
That makes absolutely no sense if you think about it. Remember, this remote has the Misham mark on it. Vera created it, and she always confirmed. She already confirmed what it was used for. It may be true, but we must consider a certain possibility. That Miss Misham has created this type of remote before for a different machine. But she would have told us if she had done such a thing. Vera Misham has had quite the long career in forward trade, Mr. Justice. Many of her commissions date back to when she was just a child. You can't expect her to remember every one she's ever made, can you? But what? You and I must admit that Mr. Edgeworth has a point. Though I'd like to believe I have a good memory of the commissions I've made over the years. Even my memory is not flawless. Yeah, the idea sounds completely insane and ridiculous. We saw with our own eyes that the remote didn't work with the pulley. That's an absolute fact that can't be overturned. And so, we're right back where we started. As basic as it sounds, there's nothing tying the remote to the larceny. Well, if the defense has evidence to the contrary, of course. He's right, of course. I can't win this battle by words alone. I need this solid, concrete evidence showing what this remote was used for. Alright, let's try and present this with the updated remote.
Objection!
Vera, I just have one thing to ask. Huh? What is it, Apollo? It's actually something that's been bothering me ever since I heard about it. Are you so sure that the remote didn't work with the pulley?
Objection!
Mr. Justice, you really must try not to sound like you're grasping at straws. The jury saw with her own eyes that the remote didn't work during the larceny trial. You simply cannot overturn the fact that this remote wasn't used in the larceny. Unless, of course. Stop waggling at me. That's not what you're implying at all. I see the prosecution has already caught on. I'm sorry, what are you two trying to say? I believe the easiest way to explain it would be to show rather than tell. By using this remote once again. Pressing the button did nothing last time. It would not be the same if he tried the same thing again. They do say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results from it. That is, of course, assuming all the variables are the same. Very well. The court will allow the defense to use the remote again. There better not be any more dead bodies to find this time, Mr. Justice. I think we're good on that, Your Honor. Beep. That noise! As this court can see with their own eyes, the remote found at the scene of the larceny does indeed work. With this pulley. Mr. Justice, that's not the pulley that was presented in the larceny trial. That's the pulley that was found in the vents near the murder. That's exactly right, Your Honor. The remote that was presented during the trial wasn't used during the larceny. It was actually used in the plot to kill Coy Eruption. Order! Order! Mr. Justice, I don't understand. How is this possible? The remote found during a completely different crime could be used in this murder. It sounds fantastic, Your Honor, but it's the truth. If you'll recall, an argument was made during the larceny trial about a contradiction in the defense's argument. How could the thief have used the pulley to escape if it was found at the crime scene? Of course, we now know that there were actually two remotes that Vera made. The remote found at the crime scene, we now know is connected to the pulley we just found. Knowing this, it's still plausible the other is connected to the pulley found by Aiden Gambit. Meaning the theory he proposed that day isn't completely off the table. Very well. The evidence shall be updated to reflect this. So if the remote to the pulley that killed Coy Rupture was found at the larceny scene, and must have been planted there ahead of time, Your Honor. The conclusion to be drawn from this is obvious. The culprits of both crimes must be one and the same. Logic has a few holes, Mr. Justice. The second one would be a time bomb to, a literal time bomb to set off the courtroom trap in the trial. Then regarding the opportunity to use the remote itself. The opportunity to use the remote. Keep in mind that the remote was found at the scene of the larceny. Once it was found, it was immediately taken into police custody. If the culprit had planted the remote as you claim they did, there'd be no opportunity to use it to kill Coy Eruption. That's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. There's a clear opportunity to use the remote to kill Coy Eruption, even when the remote is still in police custody. Very well, Mr. Justice, the court will hear your explanation. Time like this, Mr. Wright would say I need to turn my thinking around. Not a matter of how could the killer have used the remote when it's in police custody. It's all about what opportunity opened up because the remote was in police custody to use it in court. Court is waiting to hear from you, Mr. Justice. Okay, these are not the options I was expecting. Whee! Policeman in the trial stole the remote. They have to be in the trial, then. There's only one true explanation if you really think about it. The reason why the killer planted the remote so it would end up in police custody becomes clear when you think about the events of the day of the murder. In particular, an event that would give the murderer the perfect alibi. You can't possibly mean. It's the only explanation, Your Honor. The culprit used this opportunity to play us all for fools. By using the justice system itself to their advantage. With the discovery of the pulley, we concluded that said alibi doesn't hold water. But the discovery that the remote was planted takes it one step further. The true culprit is somebody who was intimately involved in the larceny trial. Oh! Order! Order! Let's Justice explain this at once. What you're saying is true. If someone defiled the sanctuary of our courts to commit murder, this simply must not be allowed to stand. Understood, Your Honor. The culprit is very careful in how they set up the situation. Their step was to steal the files from Mr. Edgeworth's office. It's also at this point that the remote was planted in the office as well. The thief banked on the suspect being apprehended, thus setting their wicked plot into motion. The next step of the plan was to become involved in the trial itself. How exactly they were involved is still unknown as of right now. However, they must have been in a position that allowed them to handle the evidence. For the trial, the culprit made their move on Coy Rupture. Whether they attacked him in the chambers or the underground bunker is unclear. Either way, they knocked him out. Then the culprit put the unconscious victim in the unused vents above the crime scene. There, the killer had installed the pulley ahead of time in preparation for their plan. All that was left now was the coup de grace. At some point during the larceny trial, the killer saw their chance. They pressed the button on the remote to pull the victim to his death, thus setting up their perfect alibi for the crime. And that brings us to today. Two pulleys used in two different crimes with the same end goal in mind. Everything was carefully planned to lead to Corey Rupture's death. But now, the curtain is pulled back and the illusion is revealed. The culprit used these courts as their puppet, setting up the strings of Rupture's demise. It is all so much to take in. Maybe we could be played for fools in this manner. Who could be responsible for such a thing? I'm starting to get my suspicions of who is really behind this case. At the same time, though, I'm not sure if I'm ready to give a name yet. This crime must have happened like how I described it. That's the only thing that makes sense. All the same, before I start naming a suspect in this murder, I need proof that this person had malicious intent with their actions. Malicious intent with, the whole mash buttons. Right now, no such proof exists for the prosecutor who submitted the remote to the court. Fucking pain. Police officers who found the remote in Edgeworth's office. The judge oversaw the case who just wanted to give a fair verdict. Or for Aiden Gambit who just seemed to be looking out for his client. All of them just seemed to be doing their respective jobs. Right now, even if I were to name the person who used the remote, they could just claim they didn't set up the death trap and shoot my argument in the foot. That's actually smart. That's actually real smart. Like, it feels obvious that Gambit set up the larceny trial scenario, but I should play it safe until I can prove one of them obfuscated the evidence in some way. Does that really mean I can't name a suspect? So I may not have proof of who exactly did this crime. But I can prove that there was someone out there who had ill intentions. Are we going to present the spirit of the blackmail letter? Your Honor, I do think I can answer the question of who was responsible for this crime. However, I cannot give you a name for the suspect. I'm afraid I don't understand, Mr. Justice. How would you tell us who did this without giving us a name? Cannot yet prove who exactly was responsible for setting up this crime, because the person responsible has not yet provided their true identity. In that case, it's clear simply naming a suspect won't do. We must now present evidence showing who committed the crime. Understood, Your Honor. The evidence that shows the identity the killer hid behind. I think it would already be time to bring it out. The evidence that shows who the real killer is this. Blackmail. I'm sure the jury will recognize the piece of evidence I'm about to bring up. After all, this letter played an integral role in yesterday's affairs. Ah, that letter. Just as I thought. You do remember it. This letter was presented by Aiden Gambit in yesterday's trial. This letter, the person trying to blackmail Manny Steele used a pseudonym. This is why I'm unable to say the name of my suspect. I see. So then your suspect is... That's right, Your Honor. Clearly, whoever this blackmailer is had a connection to Rupture and Steele. You mean... through that case they both played a part in so long ago. Exactly, Your Honor. As my main suspect, I named the blackmailer who targeted Manny Steele. Order! Order! We've all been so blind to it. This man Mr. Gambit mentioned, the spirit of seething. Mr. Gambit believed him to be behind the larceny. Jonathan Seething reborn. But he was written off. Jonathan Seething is dead. Ghosts aren't real. And now that we know we were being misled this entire time, is it possible Seething's ghost really was behind everything the entire time? Oh, okay. I can't say much for superstition. However, a ghost culprit, as crazy as it sounds, would explain why we couldn't see what was happening right in front of us. And say for certain who the spirit of Seething really is without proof. However, I can say one thing for certain. No ghost perpetrated this crime. Indeed, it all comes back to what we've been saying since the larceny trial. Ghosts are not real. And yet, as we go further along into the trial, I can't help but wonder if that point might be irrelevant. Huh? After all, they aren't called the ghost of seething. Ghosts do not exist, but spirits do. Oh right, you did make that distinction way back in the... when we were cross-examining Judge Erie. After all, a spirit is simply a manifestation of someone's will. Jonathan Seething may be presumed dead to the world. That doesn't mean his will is gone from it. It's still unclear if the blackmailer really is Seething himself. It's clear they mean to extract revenge. For what happened to him. If the spirit of Seething really is the true culprit, they may never stop until Jonathan Seething's vengeance is fulfilled. Our only option is to stop them right here, right now.
Objection!
This court has rather enjoyed your preparation for next year's Halloween. I'm afraid this is where your ghost stories end. What? What do you mean? Defense has theorized that the culprits of the larceny and the murder are the same, and in doing so sparked a discussion of whether or not the spirit of Seething is involved. However, there's one big hole in defense's line of logic that nobody has pointed out. A hole? What hole? Defense's claim is that the thief planted the remote to later use in the murder. This would explain why the remote was found in my office works with a pulley. It was found in the vents above the scene of the murder. Yes, that is very much the claim they are making. However, the problem with this argument is rather easily explained. The lawsuit that occurred already had a guilty party. What? No, he can't mean... I am talking, of course, about the defendant of yesterday's trial. None other than our good friend Manny Steele. Oh dear. You'll recall the defense failed to prove his innocence. Yes, he's basically waiting to be pronounced guilty of the crime. Ah, if he is found guilty... Obviously, I don't need to point out the problems this presents for you, Mr. Justice. If Manny Steele is guilty of the crime, the thief cannot be the murderer. After all, Steele had no chance to set up Cory Rupture's death trap. Not while he was being held in a detention cell. Ergo, so long as Steele remains our lead suspect, your theory shall remain just another easily disproven ghost story. I mean, we don't have any of the further blackmail letters from... No! Order! Order! The argument presented by Mr. Edgeworth is rather sound. That Manny Steele remains the lead suspect of the larceny is a fact that is detrimental to the defense's case. Wait, hold on! Ms. Misham, do you have more to add? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you were there, remember? You heard Mr. Gammon's arguments. You know what he said. He said if the remote worked, the defense should be innocent. The defendant should be innocent. Ah, that's right. He did say that. Yeah, he was right about the remote, so that proves his theory. Right. Made Mr. Steele is innocent, right? Unfortunately, Vera, it's not as simple as that. Huh? It's true that the remote worked when Mr. Justice used it. However, it worked with the pulley found in the vents. Gambert's theory was that the remote should work. With the pulley found on the roof of the prosecutor's office. And again, wasn't one of the foibles of that argument to begin with that why was the remote left behind if the true culprit used it to escape? Ah. There we go, proof of how a third party committed the crime is lacking. The remote for the second pulley still has yet to be found. As long as that is the case, there is no evidence tying it to the larceny that day. But as it stands, Aiden Gambert's theory still has yet to be properly proven. These bits and pieces might be enough to convince a jury of his innocence. But Manny Steele's trial was still held using the bench system, meaning that these arguments wouldn't hold water in my brother's court. The place where Manny Steele's fate will be decided. That's just not fair. You, juror 2? You of all people? Am I just supposed to lie down and accept this with no way to change things? Juror 2, you were not asked for your input. That girl asked us to speak out, and here we are. Was that the rule? We're allowed to add our opinions when asked? Ah, well, I thought the moment was past for that. Bull crap! We're still on this topic, so we should get to talk. Juror 2, please calm down. Let's just talk this out. Mr. Wright's having trouble keeping the jury under control. Want to give the defense a break, but Mr. Edgeworth is right. As long as Steele's the guilty party, the defense's argument has no leg to stand on. We have to take it into account when giving our verdict. Can't allow that. They call a verdict with this guy in the hole of my argument. And my client is as good as guilty, too. The way to keep this trial going is to find a way to keep my arguments afloat. The only way for that to happen... At last, you must finally understand, Mr. Justice, what it is that you must do now. I think I do, Mr. Edgeworth. So long as Manny Steele is guilty, the case cannot proceed. The only way forward is to prove him innocent. There we go. Looks like we are retrying the larceny case. Very nice. Till next time. Until then.